Is the song from The Little Mermaid?
I can only hear Aladdin. What's the song from Little Mermaid?
Look at this stuff. Isn't it neat? Wouldn't you say my collection's complete?
Okay. Do you want to do call and response?
No! We both need to belt it out, whatever we do.
Okay. Um, I've been singing a lot of Coldplay lately,
Okay.
and I don't know. I've only like learned what Coldplay is in the last like. I've started listening to interviews with the band leader Chris Martin, and
Okay.
like the moment I heard him answer a few questions, I was just like, "Ah, oh, yes, he gets it. He's doing the like this like. There's just so much in him that's like that's the way to do it. That's what I want to do." And apparently, a lot of the reason that like Coldplay songs are like very sing alongable because they've designed them to like they're not trying to be performing artists. They're trying to like orchestrate mass events where like community is felt and everybody knows how to like sing along. So there's all kinds of like there's the song I'm practicing lately is called Jupiter,
Yeah,
and the
no, I
chorus is just
know of that
you
one.
know the one.
Well, I know of it.
Okay, it's like the chorus. It's about like not being ashamed of who you love, and the chorus goes, I love who I love. 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 The message from above is never give up. Love who you love.
Aw. I don't know it, but that's sweet.
It's sing alongable. We could learn it.
Um, a friend of mine runs a business that is just like of the scale that I can't comprehend. He's like on the leading edge of making 3D, like video in 3D.
Put the guy in the valley.
Yep.
You were talking about
And
before.
yeah, it was over the other day, and I don't know what we were talking about, like um mass like fads and China and how China just does everything so big. And there he was like, they have the biggest boy bands in the world. And I was like, do they? He's like, yeah, they do everything like to the nines. And then he was like, they have the biggest boy band in the world. And I was like, well, who is it? And I'd never even heard of it. And he was like, actually, my company like filmed their music video with Coldplay. And I was like,
What?
wait, or like was part of it.
It's
And I
part of
was
it.
like, what? Show me the video. So we watched it and I was like, why Coldplay? And I didn't even like realize this. He's like, well, because they're one of the other biggest bands in the entire world. And I was like,
They're
oh,
huge.
I guess they
Yeah.
are.
Yeah.
I kind of like sometimes in my mind just lump them in with like Maroon 5 or something, because it's like somewhat a similar
And
style.
yeah, and I
But
feel like they're almost like a Trojan horse in that way.
yeah.
Like I've because I've like had Coldplay on my like Spotify forever, and I've always like sung along and been like cool, but yeah, similar to like those other pop bands. And then it was only in the last week or two that I was just like started,
Wait a second.
yeah, listening to the interviews, and it's like I like he sounds like his philosophy sounds like to me like very integral, very like cosmoerotic humanist, like he walks like he gets off the plane and walks barefoot to ground in every city that he like tours in, and is just
On the
like
tarmac.
on the time, yeah, just like I don't know everybody that he just like has this like you just I don't know it's worth watching an interview with him because he's just like so like I don't know when you just get the vibe from somebody
Oh
that like
yeah. The energy
they're
speaks for itself.
authentic. There's been this thing going around at like a he did a concert in Toronto last week where they have like a love cam. Like they're all about love. So they put it on people. It's not like a kiss cam, but it's just like they put the camera on people and then he'll like sing a song about them. So like they'll put it on a like I don't know, a couple kids and then he'll just like make up a little story about the kids. But there's been this video going around because they put it on a couple that were like middle-aged and they're like he was holding her over the shoulders and then as soon as the camera gets on both of them they both duck and cover because they realize they've been outed and he's just like oh someone's having an affair which is what
Oh
happened. Yeah. He
Shit.
said, "You're either having an affair or you're very shy." And it turned out to be,
Damn.
like, the CEO of, like, a billion-dollar AI company and his, like, chief of operations, and their lives are, like, falling apart now.
Yeah, you can't backpedal from that.
You can't. You really can't.
You're on Coldplay's Love Cam. Like, sorry.
And all the whole comment section for the videos is, like, people, like, one-upping each other on, like, what's the best Coldplay lyric for this moment. Uh, the top vote seems to be, "I used to rule the world, seas would rise when I gave the word. Now in the morning I sleep alone."
Oh, oh damn. The drama of humans, hey? Oh my god.
Yeah.
Hmm. Okay, so we're not singing, we're just talking about Coldplay now.
We've laughed though. I feel like that's like
Yeah,
got
yeah,
us into
yeah.
our bodies.
I'm also like, I can really hear like I'm kind of sinusy.
Okay.
I'm like breathing through my mouth, which is maybe not so good for singing.
Yeah. Should we proceed?
Yeah, sure.
Or would you like to sing?
No, I'm good. We laughed. That's good.
All right.
And we're shocked.
Um, and what?
And we're shocked.
And we're shocked. Yeah.
And I'm so glad that your pain is better. Oh my god.
Thank you. Yeah. I'm kind of like, I'm still, it takes a while for like the drug to build up in my system. So I think like 5 minutes before the call, my morning pill kicked in. So I'm still kind of living the contrast between like old life, having pain like some of the time, and then most of the time just being like, I feel like I can feel my body for the first time in like, there was just so much noise in my nervous system. Like I feel like when I'm eating now, I'm like, oh, that's what that food feels like in my belly. And like the pain, I still have like mechanical pain, but it's like what I imagine, what I remember pain feeling like as like a kid, like, oh, I hurt my neck. The rest of me still feels okay. It's not like a systemic wide like
Shut down.
shut down. It's been like fascinating. Like I'm almost like inclined to just like I have been going very slow and just like not like it feels like an integration journey or like a post journey integration, just like
That's so
waves of
wild.
grief.
Yeah. And like the yeah, if your body isn't a safe place to be, you won't feel it. Like you'll feel the pain, obviously, but you'll be like dissociated from everything else that's happening. And now, like that's all coming back, like all the nuance
Yeah.
of being in a body. And also, I bet that impacts like the how that grief feels.
Oh, totally. Yeah. It's like it's a mix of grief because like it's unprocessed emotions that are coming up because the muscles that were being like triggered like couldn't relax fully. So like that's got a lot of like unprocessed emotions in it. And there's like this like almost like a revelatory experience to it. It's like, oh, I was dreaming. Like that wasn't all my pain. That wasn't even close to like all my pain is way, way less than that. That was just like essentially a form of projection that just like took my body over. And now I feel like I'm smelling things I haven't smelled. I've had moments
Whoa.
like this as an adult where I like the pain has subsided, so I know kind of what it's like. But like I'm smelling things I haven't smelled. I'm like no, just like there's just so much more attention available. Like I'm hearing things. I'm feeling my guitar strings vibrate.
Yeah, yeah,
Like I
yeah.
don't remember, you know, as intensely, and I'm sure that will like plateau and like there'll be a new normal. But for now, it
But
feels
you're
like
in the contrast, like right now.
yeah.
My only like comparable experience is like I spent one winter in a house sitting in a house that was like essentially unheatable. Like
Okay.
whatever I did, I couldn't get the house warm, and I was in multiple layers, hats, scarves, basically a jacket, like indoors all winter. And I remember like what you're
Mhm.
describing, like everything was shut down and everything was numb because my whole system was in like survive
Right.
mode. And I was like, I've lost the ability to be creative completely. Like, and it was almost like an identity crash. And then I was like, No, I'm just cold. Just really cold. And like you, it's like, I'm just in pain. So nothing else is computing.
Yeah, and even the pain wasn't computing. It was like
Yeah,
it
after a
it
while,
was just
hey?
it was so like I liken it almost to like and this may be different than the cold experience you're describing, but it was almost like as an audio editor, like you can turn the volume up on on a audio track to a point, and then it just all hits like the peak line, and then everything
Yeah.
just gets distorted. And like that was what I was experiencing in my body. It was unpleasant, but it was
Oh.
also like I guess that's numbing, but like in my mind, I've just been like, well, if I can't like sometimes it'd be like, oh, it was really easy to motor through because it's the same as it always was, like regardless of pain. So I would like put myself in situations and not be able to tell what damage I was doing by pushing myself too much further or too far because I had no like I had already reached like distortion levels. So any new information wouldn't have made sense. And now I'm like, just like attuned to all these things that I'm like, oh, like I used to get annoyed at other people when they're like, oh, I'm not quite comfortable in this chair. Can we find a better seat? It's like, no chairs are comfortable for me. Like, deal with it. And now I can actually feel it. It's like, oh yeah, that's that's a nice thing to
It is
like all
nice to
these like
seek out a
micro,
chair that you like.
yeah.
Whoa, that's crazy, Mark. You're like in a rebirth.
That's what it feels like. Yeah. Like I said, I think I shared it in our voice messages. Like, I feel like I got out of jail and stunned. Like, okay, what do you do when you have what do you do when you can feel, Casey?
Wow, let me tell you. You should come to the erotic temple and employ some of that feeling. Seriously, wow. Yeah. And you had one of those like epiphanies when you got your um test results back too. It's been like such a year for you.
Yeah. Yeah, this feels way more embodied than that.
Right. Yeah. That was like conceptual
Yeah.
relief. And now
Yeah.
you're launching and you took Loom's reflection seriously that you're not making yourself visible as a guitar teacher and now you're fucking doing something about it.
Oh yeah.
I love that. What a like yeah, how high value is that like someone to name this is where you're limiting yourself. And okay, thanks. Now I'm going to do something about that.
Hmm. Yeah. How are you using your what's your bot named again? Harmod?
Hermod, yeah.
Harmod. How's Harmod? Or I don't care how Harmod is. How has Harmod helped you these days?
Yeah, yeah, yeah. Hermod has helped me. Mostly mostly processing relationship, I guess. Is it's
Mm.
kind of my favorite way to use it in general. I also did a little exercise the other night because I named a goal, a financial goal, like a monthly financial goal, like maybe 3 years ago or so. I was like, next year I want to make this much money per month. And then where I want to ultimately get to is like this number per month. And this month, July, I hit that top number, or I will hit that top number
Oh shoot. The stretch
for the
goal.
first, yeah, for the first time. And I was like,
Congratulations.
okay, this is good. And not I don't have the system set up so that that's going to happen every month, but certainly
Mhm.
that's the direction I'm going. And so I was like, okay, well, what if I quintupled that? I was like, what? I not exactly a day in the life, but help me imagine that identity where in
Mm.
which usually the reason that we don't have our goals or we aren't living the life we want is because we haven't become the person who can live that life yet. We haven't made our identity shift. Our identity is still very anchored in the way that we currently live. And so we don't change it because that's not how it works. You can't change things and then your identity like catches up, you know? You have to change identity first. So
Right.
I've
Yeah.
been using or like I've been playing with Hermod a little bit about what would if I was this woman who had this goal,
Mhm.
You know, what would my life look like? Who would I be? How would I be different? Like, how would I move? How would I speak? What different choices would I make? And getting a little insight into that has been fun.
It's so powerful for that, eh?
Yeah.
Does it still feel like a mirror to you?
Um, I can see I'm seeing now a little bit of a trend where it's starting to pigeonhole itself,
Hmm.
where it's kind of got my loops. And so I didn't find, especially in that exercise, that it was very creative.
Mm.
Um, and yeah, so most of what it said, I was like, I'm doing most of that. I am mostly that woman already.
Uh-huh, right. That's interesting. I found that sometimes if I don't update it enough on what's changed, that it will sort of, like, take maybe a version of myself that I shared with it 2 months ago, but I've just, like, forgotten to say, "Oh, I did these things, and here are the results." So it's sort of like if
Mm,
I ask for that sort of, like, self-assessment kind of advice, it'll, like, kinda be speaking to an older version of myself, which ironically is what I do too. It's like when I'm thinking, like, h how often is my own thinking limited by who I was a year ago and just isn't, like, up to date. It's like, "No, you have new skills than you did a year ago." So, like, my inner dialogue
yeah.
is kind of a on a lag, and so is Loombot.
Accordingly, yeah.
Yeah. I heard this,
So
piece of research once that was like, for children you don't see regularly, so, like, not your own child or, like, your
uh-huh.
neighbor's kids, um, kids are, like, super tired of hearing adults they see, like, 2 or 3 times a year, like, always say, "Wow, you're so much taller than I remembered." But they studied it, and apparently when it comes to, like, height, our brains remember, like, if I've seen my nephews, let's say I've seen them 100 times in total, and they're 10, my memory of them is the average of their height. It's like it's the average of the heights they've been during that period. So if you're living with someone every day, your, like, memory of your kid is about what he is now. Um, but if you see somebody only sometimes, then your memory of their height is like an average of all the times you've seen them. So you end
Okay.
up always being like, when you see them, you're like, "Wow, you're so tall," because you haven't updated your, like, inner model of them for being like a 5-foot kid. You're still thinking of them as something far less than that.
It does happen to me a little bit with my kid as well.
Does
Sometimes
it?
I'll look over at him and I'm like,
Wow, he's so
"You're
big.
supposed to be a toddler." Like, "What? Who are you?"
Which makes sense because 'cause you've still got, like, it's an average. So on this, like, yeah, he would always be a little smaller in your mind than
Yeah,
he is.
then he is.
Yeah.
Yeah, because 'cause I'm not on that edge. And speaking of which, that's a really interesting comment because I notice, like, processing emotion, um, or intense, like, chapters in life or something, like, our body has this ability to, um, metabolize our most intense experiences such that they're not as present in our memory anymore. Like, the experiences, and especially the story we tell ourselves about the experience, but the actual sensation of being in it tends to plateau off pretty quickly.
Uh-huh, okay.
And what I notice is when I'm in those really intense moments, I remember the things I said to myself more than I remember exactly like about how it felt than I actually remember of how it felt. So I'm really conscientious of that now of what narrative I tell myself and like sometimes 5, 8, 10 years later I'll remember like an intense pain moment, but I'll remember what I said to myself or what I promised myself or what I said like remember this.
Hmm.
Or if I make
Can
a
you give an
metaphor.
example? I'm very with you.
um
I'm just curious how it
yeah, that's a great request. Even just like so living with an ex who was abusive, just being like, it feels dangerous to attend to the cattle together. Or like, if we do this thing, I call supervisor because it's not safe for me. And I don't necessarily remember the the activation of that lack of safety, but I remember like saying to myself, I need to go do this because this experience is so intense.
Hmm.
Like, this is how I'll remedy it.
Right. So
Maybe
you're like
something
making a
like that.
promise to yourself in that moment. Is that what you're
Yeah.
saying?
Yeah, that is one thing, one way of it. Or like, I'll never, you know, I'll never like, I don't know. I can't think of a good example right now, actually.
Fair enough. I think I grokked the larger notion of what you're saying. Like it's like your memory of the experience. Tell me if I got it. It's like your memory of an intense experience is very shaped by your self-talk during that moment of the
Yeah.
intense experience. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
More than you were saying it more than something else, more than your feelings in the moment. Is that
Yeah. More than the actual like remembrance of the sensation of it.
uh-huh. That makes sense because it's like the I feel like so many intense experiences are like intense. What's coming to mind for me is like because of like some kind of like surprise factor. And it's like, whoa, I wasn't expecting this. And then there's like a wave of emotion related to it, which is often like whatever the narrative is that pops up, that means blank is usually pretty distorted if you're in an intense, like emotional experience. So if you're like, that strikes me as a time where it's like, you know, your principles come in. So if you have a principle that's like, well, like no matter what somebody does to me, I will always treat them with respect. Like something like that can come in and be like, well, and that's what I told myself in the moment, and that's what I did. So then it makes that more of like a, I don't know. It's sort of like I think of like having principles or like mantras or whatever it is, or just like habitual like practice ways of doing things. And those moments can kind of be like a way. It's like you're asserting a boundary almost. Like I might not be able to make sense of this experience right now, but this boundary has always made sense to me, so I'm going to like apply it. Or this principle has always made sense in situations like this.
Or especially when one of those boundaries or principles becomes really alive because of that situation.
Mm,
You're like, oh,
totally. Yeah.
now this is part of my governing,
Right.
document.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. Oh, I've got an example. I feel like for me, one of those things is like tennis match conflict. Like when I realize I'm in a tennis match conflict, it's like
Yes.
like it's so easy to get trapped. Where like I give
Ugh.
somebody a piece of feedback that I think they can handle, that I think is constructive. They take it non-constructively, and then they're like, "But you said," and then I'm defending myself, and I find I'm thinking of a specific instance a few months ago where I was in a conflict, and it was like I realized we had gotten into a tennis match place. We were starting to use us them language. And I was like, you know what? I got to step back from this. We're using us them language. I don't like thinking that way. That feels like a trap. I don't do tennis match conflict. Like, let's pick this up another time. And it was very difficult to do in the moment. But
Yeah.
afterwards, I was just like, oh, so glad I was able to like say that before I said the other thing I was thinking about saying.
The thing I really wanted to unleash. Yeah, such good awareness. And I think, maybe as being like a real emotion, feeling, sensation based being versus yourself, who's a little bit like a logical and principle predominantly
I
based
got a
being.
lot of feeling in me.
You got a lot of feeling. You have a beautifully integrated feminine and masculine inside of you.
But
And
go on. I know. Yeah.
um yeah, I'm thinking about like a breakup with an ex and just remembering how desperate I felt. Like the desperation to be understood or receive care or receive consideration. Um and then like the rage of receiving communication that was like, well, just had to get all that out, even if it hurt you, and then moving out of that emotional state, not being in the emotional state anymore, revising the principles of like, okay, what got me to in that situation and how am I going to protect myself from that happening again, whilst also keeping my heart open, of course. Um,
Mm.
but I don't actually
No small
remember.
task.
No, but probably one of the tasks most worth
Yeah.
figuring out how to do. And yeah, I don't actually remember what the sensation was of like rage crying in the car, like from getting these messages, but I do remember being like, I felt like a desperate, like animal in a trap.
Hmm.
Um, I had a really neat thought about this topic that has currently escaped me that I
I'm
was
with you.
excited about.
I,
What do you mean?
I feel like you're about to take it home.
Ah!
You've taken us to the end of the cliff. Can we
I
jump?
know. I need to launch the parachute, but I've misplaced it.
Would it help if I reminded you what you just said?
This whole conversation was about like naming your like the language. Ah, yes. Love that. The Velcro just re-stuck in my brain.
This is why we edit.
Thank you. No, it was not necessarily going to take us home, but maybe bring us back to our like favorite topics. But because I saw this quote the other day that was like, "Show me your self-talk, and I'll show you how you have sex."
Ooh.
Which, in all cases, how you have sex is like the perfect like hyperbola for how you exist in relationship.
Right. I think I've also heard you say in one of your reels one time, like how how did you express it? It was like the way I'm losing. I've you had a slightly different way of sharing that. That's escaping me now.
Which reel
But that
was it?
makes sense. It's about being in a relationship. You were recording it when I was down there in June. I think it was something like how you. It might have been the opposite. You might have said something like how you have sex with yourself is how you greet the world or something.
Yeah. How you have sex with yourself is how you do most things in the world.
That's what it
Yeah.
was. Yeah. How you have sex with yourself is how you do most things in the world. Yeah. That rings true.
Yeah. And like I can imagine just dropping that into certain circles of people like like the cringe
Uh-huh.
at that thought of like, wait, no, I do not want that to be true. But maybe one of those like hard pills to swallow sometimes.
Yeah. And I'm sure
But
there's probably some nuance to it too. Like
of
there
course.
I find
Yeah.
sometimes like there's areas of my life where it's like I've introduced a principle and then like suddenly or a way of doing things and then it's sort of like then it starts to hit you like all the areas in your life where you're not following that kind of like that principle. So it's like, oh, it's time to introduce like I don't know, tantra to me doing the dishes. Like
Ooh. Ooh, I love
that's actually
that.
been one I've done
Yes.
for a long time. Doing the dishes is a pretty easy place to practice
Yeah.
mindfulness or tantra, but
Yeah. It's true.
um
But I
yeah, I
can
find
use it as a metric, when I watch my own self pleasure. Like because that I think it's fairly true, how you self pleasure is often how you show up in most ways, but you can reverse engineer that with how you treat your self pleasure can then influence.
mm,
So you can change it not by how you are in the world, but actually how you treat your own body,
yeah.
and it ripples outwards. And I often will use my self pleasure as a metric of like, am I rushing? Am I goal oriented? Am I doing this compulsively? What level of
Mm,
thoughtfulness am I introducing? Um, am I really tuned in to what feels like a yes today, or am I, scattered,
mm.
etc., etc.
Yeah, it makes sense. I've been using this little mantra that I think I made it up. I'm pretty sure I made it up. That when you've like been reciting something for a long time that it just like it becomes your own, but then you remember that like you borrowed it. So if anybody is listening that thinks they made this up. You probably did. But for now, I'm going to say I made it up.
I love that it's
And
yours enough that you're like, it might have come from me, but it's so mine now that I'm just gonna say that it maybe did.
yeah. But it's, do you want more or do you want more? I feel like it's very easy to like, I think our mind is always like, for me, it's like the later in the day it gets, the more I find myself just like wanting more, like more food, maybe more of some substance. And but that's actually like, I think at the heart, it's like what I'm really looking for is like amor. It's like there's no amount of food or um substance or stimulation from scrolling that can replace what I'm actually looking for, which is like social connection and like love and amor.
Love, safety, and belonging.
Yeah.
That's a trifecta. Yeah, I think it's very true. I mean, and you're speaking to the heart of the addiction cycle that, you know, is pretty sort of standard practice now. Is it's like addiction is. I'm not qualified to talk about this, but I love I like love working with myself with the idea that addiction is always an attempt to meet our needs in a way that will never actually meet them.
Hmm.
And what's under that impulse is usually a desire for love, safety, and belonging
Hmm.
that we're actually searching for.
Yeah.
And I see it in myself in, yeah, eating, scrolling.
Yeah. We've been very programmed to be addicted to a lot of things at this point. I think there is I might have shared this with you before, but uh the list, I'll try and remember as much as I can of it, but like if you look at all the industrialized versions of things, um like how largely like fast food, factory farming, processed food have like taken the place of
I might need to get a drink. Hold on.
okay, don't die.
No, I won't. This is the way it has to pass. Weird summer colds, man. I'm gonna also blow my nose while I'm on this off-screen break. While we're in a segment that's going to be clipped, do you want to sort of what's the word? Either consolidate our topic or kind of bring. I feel like we're getting somewhere like quite conceptual, and
In this
I would love,
dialogue?
yeah, I would love to come back to like a little more personal.
Okay. We've just been
You're about to say something about factory farming.
oh yeah, I don't want to finish that thought.
Great. Great.
Yeah, that's interesting. I feel like this is, I'm not sure where we'll clip back in, but maybe I'll just if this ends up in the podcast, great. If not, it'll be our bridge. Yeah, I think one of the things I've been reflecting on is like which parts of me / my work make sense in this container and which parts don't. In
Yeah.
like our
In
shared
our
space, and I
podcast
think
container? Yeah,
yeah.
same.
Okay,
Because it's
so yeah,
like,
I'm curious.
oh yeah, there's like we're a Venn diagram, right? Of like, there's a
Yeah,
powerful overlap point, and there's like pieces that don't fit so much.
yeah,
What are
yeah.
you
I feel like
thinking?
it's almost, well, like I think in the beginning I was thinking probably more that like something like what I was just about to do, like explain how I see a thing, would be more of like it would our podcast would be more of us like explaining things we know about to whoever might be listening. And I think we do some of that, but it's like in the overlap zone. And I think my sense is that like that's where we shine in the overlap zone. And if one of us is trying to take the other into like the beyond the edges on either side, it has a different vibe and feel. Well, and that might come up in like our one-on-one conversations, like, or our like offline conversations. It feels just like different than like, it's more like experimental territory for us than for, you know what I mean?
And it's also in our offline conversation, to use your words, it's just our relationship. Is what our relationship is like based on. So, if you're talking about like a political piece of writing that you're doing, like you're not teaching me about what's in the writing, you're telling me about your experience of writing it
Mm-hmm.
and maybe what you're learning and maybe what you're
I see. Yeah, yeah.
experiencing because of that,
And that's
right?
what we're recording, you're saying, or that's offline.
I That's how it naturally is offline, and then I think like in the podcast recording there's sort of like cool teaching stuff of things that we both know about, but um I think that the beating heart of what we're doing is in that overlap zone is the way in which we reflect on those things that we're doing and how they feel and how they influence our life and who we are, and the way that we would talk on the phone about those things.
Right. Yeah, I hear you. Yeah, and I think it's almost like something I've been thinking about is that like it might be maybe like a convention or like an agreement we could have is that like we have as free conversation. Like I'm thinking about like, then how do we like protect that from becoming like almost like performative or falling into like podcast voice mode versus like relationship voice? And I was thinking just like even having like an agreement. I think this feels like rather implicit anyways, but uh to be able to like say that like whatever we record doesn't mean it's in the podcast. It just means it's us recording for a podcast, but we save ourselves we give ourselves the option to edit things out so that we don't, because I find that noticing myself, it's like without reminding myself of that, that's when I slip into sort of like a performative kind of like not entirely just like hanging out with Casey voice.
Yeah, maybe we could be accountable to each other to notice the places where those little moments are going to serve, and like amplify them a bit. Like, tell me more about that thing, or like, what did that like? What was that like for you, or how did that influence? Like, if I'm like, oh, this is there's a little like nugget of brilliance and wisdom in here. I'm gonna lift it
Mm-hmm.
up out of you.
Right. Which we might not do in regular conversation, or
Maybe not so much because we have experienced each other's brilliance over and over and over and over again.
right.
Whereas if there's a moment where you say something and I'm just like, I just love your take on this because I know it already. Can you?
Right. I see what you're saying. Yeah, yeah. So it's sort of like you're almost like, I don't know if I've shared like the 4 levels of listening thing with you, but there's sort of like listening from in the conversation. There's listening from like the field, if there's like more than one person in conversation, and then like listening from like the edge of the room or the window.
Mhm.
So it's almost like maybe if I'm hearing you correctly, it's sort of like I'm in the conversation with you, but I'm also sort of like mindful that like there's an audience here that I'm trying to serve as your partner in conversation, and like knowing our intent is to like share these conversations, and that there's like stuff coming up that's like intuitive to me but not necessarily the audience. So like opening that doorway, almost like opening a window for the audience, like look how great Casey is, or like
Yeah,
look what
as
else he has.
opposed and like us as our baseline staying in the field and
Hmm.
then like not having that be home rather than trying to like be out there looking in, like trying to serve the audience too much.
Yeah.
Have this be the home, and then if I'm like, I want to open this window for them in Mark, do it.
Right. I like that. Yeah. It's a good way of presenting it as you did.
Yeah, and I feel like there's a combination of there's a combination of internal wisdom that becomes embodied and innate, like the stuff that I feel like I learned in my course is like very much in me, and like from my relationships, and from you, from your relationships, and like from your um whole like medical experience. Like there's all this wisdom that has, and like profound like self-reflection that has happened, and then there's also these like really cool overlapping like tool things that we both have, like
Mm.
your like, what is it, what is the one that's like
The
grow
soft shoe.
up, show up,
Oh, that one. Yeah.
blah 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 blah, the
Grow up,
soft shoe
show, clean up.
shuffle. Yeah, like those kind of things are just so fun to bring in as frames in like the
Yeah.
more intimate relational stuff that we're talking about. Yeah.
Yeah, I think you're right. And it's like it's all I think we've talked about this before, that it's like even just our conversation like includes a grammar that, because of like what we've studied and learned and done on our own, like that's going to be educational in itself. I was listening to an interview the other day with Stephen Colbert, and he's like the
Okay.
youngest of like 12 siblings, and he was saying how like when he was
Yeah.
growing up he barely talked because he was just so fascinated by his siblings and everything that they were like talking about. He just wanted to learn from them. And I was like, that's like, let's assume that like somebody's just like so into our conversations, and this is such new material, like dialogues like ours are such new material to some people that like kind of doesn't matter. It's like you get to hang out with us.
Yeah. I that's where I'm at.
All right.
You got it.
Thanks for taking me back there.
Yeah, we shared the
It's easy to
journey.
lose sight of it though. I find like, yeah.
Well, I mean, you had invited at the beginning of this episode, you were like, well, let's talk about like podcast direction or like blah blah
Right.
blah. And I feel like that's part of it, and that's like maybe informs some of this mission statement orientation that we build into, is like what is the, sort of like the core mission is like the window into what relationship is like between two people who have deeply studied communication technology and also are incredibly self-reflective and live sort of like a personal growth lens in day-to-day life,
Hmm.
and also then are trying to do things in the world.
Yeah. Yeah.
And how do
Yeah. I
those
like
people
that.
share relationship? Because that's what we do.
Right. And how else can you share that other than dialogue?
Yeah, which we do when we get on the phone for 2 hours sometimes. Ah.
That's funny. Um,
The only thing that I find, like, that I hesitate on, or, like, that maybe you could help find a way through or around is, and maybe we still, like, cut this part, but, when I talk to you, when I'm talking, if we were just on the phone right now, I'd be like, "Ah, I need to, like," how I'm really using her mod is to, like
we'd be talking about who we were dating.
well, yeah, it's like, because it just informs everything. I'd be like, I'm like unpacking this relationship stuff because I'm realizing that I'm in a moment where I'm engaging in a maybe with somebody who's not showing up with the masculine, who doesn't have the masculine structure that I really want, and I'm trying to figure out how do I not how do I now knowing what I know, not overperform that role, because relationally I don't want to be in that role. But what happens when two people are
Oh,
trying
I
to
see. Yeah.
both trying to occupy the feminine pole, and I am like trying to invite this person into the masculine, but also noticing like my own wonderful growth in that I'm not resentful or angry or upset or disappointed in them that they're not naturally taking that role. I'm just I'm just in my desire for how I want it, and then letting myself see how they then show up and adjust the relationship accordingly so that no matter where it lands, you know, I can still celebrate it, and I
Mm,
can just sit in my own anchor of what I can work with relationally, what I need romantically is a man to be in the masculine pole. That's what I want, and it's non-negotiable. So if that isn't happening, or if that isn't happening enough, it just takes romantic relationship off the table, and that's okay. I don't
I
have to
see.
be mad
Uh-huh.
or upset or frustrated or like disappointed in that person because of that. I just get to stay really like clean and clear.
Mhm. I kinda wanna dive into this.
I mean, it feels alive.
Yeah, I mean, we can always like we said, like, it can be our conversation, and then the I'm sure there will be nuggets in here that yeah, that's
And I also feel like I'm recording this now and I'm like, "Oh my god, this person's gonna know, like, who they are," but, like, if we're not releasing this episode till, like, January of next year, whatever, like, nobody's gonna know who anybody is.
yeah, unless they're really following us.
Well, maybe, but still, there's a time
Even
lapse, like, if
still,
I'm
yeah,
talking
you're
about
right.
this today and this isn't released till October, and I'm not hanging out with
Yeah,
that person anymore, they don't know that I'm not talking about 4 people that have come in between,
yeah.
you know?
Yeah, I think I'm in a I feel like a very similar question. It's like if you have that idea of somebody in mind of like how you want to be in relationship, inevitably the people you meet are not going to like there's going to be people who you are drawn to who don't necessarily have what you're looking for. And what I'm hearing you say is that it's like it's not like that doesn't mean it's a hell no. It just puts like boundaries on the relationship that would be different if they were showing up or if they were the kind of like if they were able to embody what it is you're looking for.
Yeah, if they had an internal compass that was aligned already with what I want, then it would be different. And there's been like such an extraordinary amount of learning for me in like the 3 weeks that it's been happening because I get to just like this is such a powerful practice for me to just stay in desire rather than like the anxious attachment or like shadow side of that is to tip into criticism. And
Mhm.
I'm getting this beautiful opportunity with someone who's like so like unbelievably gentle to just stay in desire around what I want and then just observe how that's responded to.
Mm.
And what I've noticed, I've been posting about this because it's been so powerful for me, is that advocating for what I want actually gives my body the experience of that which I think I'm looking for. So like
Mm.
I wanted to be taken on a date this weekend, and I expressed that, and it didn't really happen. It didn't really come forward with the amount of like conviction or like seizing the opportunity that I was hoping it would be met with.
Mhm.
And so that was like a no for me. Like, you know, I'm not going to wait around and like not plan a weekend and like keep my time open,
Yeah.
hoping that this thing comes along that I so clearly asked for last week
Mhm.
and wanting to be led into that and realizing I wasn't going to be. So then I was like noticing my emotional sort of hamster wheel starting up and noticing my energy getting pulled into this like cycle of like feeling like I'm waiting to be chosen, waiting to be shown up for, um, waiting to be like almost claimed, like
Mhm.
giving this opportunity and waiting for someone to be like, oh yeah, that matters. I'm gonna like take that, you know? And that wasn't happening. And so I was like, how do I give this to myself? Because that's what you always hear in these like self-help
Right.
spaces. Like give to yourself the thing with what you want someone else to give to you. And you're like, oh, shut
Yeah.
up. I just want someone to be in love with me, you know? And but then I was like, okay, well, how do I advocate for myself? How do I show up for myself this weekend in this tiny small example in the way that I want? And so I just made a move and sent a communication that was like, you know, I the lack of directness and the lack of showing up for this opportunity is confusing for me and quite emotionally tiring. And I'm not trying to criticize. I'm like totally okay with where you're at, and I don't want something from you that you don't have capacity for. And I need to be really honest about what I can and can't work with. And this I can't work with. So I'm going to like plan my own fun weekend for myself. And if our paths cross, then like wonderful. And if they don't, like maybe we'll try this again next week. And even just communicating that, I was like, oh, someone's standing up for me. Someone is like claiming my experience and taking care of it. And I was hoping it was them, but instead it's going to be me. And it's after, as soon as I sent that communication and showed my system that like I'm showing up for you, I'm going to choose something for you, we're going to have a wonderful time,
Mm.
then I like felt like I didn't need that from them anymore. And I was like, oh, my
Right.
weekend's actually going to be great. And ironically enough, I made a whole plan that was aligned with me and what I wanted and involves more time, with girlfriends and having a cute sleepover and like things that really light me up.
Uh-huh.
And then he showed up and like slotted in an invitation for a plan that actually worked perfectly with what I had already decided.
Uh-huh.
So I was like, yeah, of course.
Right. There's like it just seems like that like being decisive and just doing like talking to yourself, like making plans based on your decision. It's amazing how many things seem to fall into place, and like it just sounds like you got rewarded by being decisive and clear on what you were and weren't
It
up
happens
for.
every time.
Yeah.
Every time something my body's kind of like, that's kind of a no. I don't, and I like speak to it. Again, really important to note, like, not from criticism, not from like, you're letting me down or like, you're not showing up how I want, but like, ooh, I want this thing. It's not happening here. So I'm going to go get it somewhere else or like give it to myself.
Hmm.
And that like literally feels like it orients the world around you. And I say this to my clients so much, like, you have no idea how powerful your no is. And you're like, that doesn't work for me. I want this.
Uh-huh.
It's like every time you say that no, it like changes, like anything that comes after that is going to be better because you've already said no to that thing. So you're never going to say yes
Yeah.
to that thing now.
Uh-huh. Yeah, I feel like I learned this in part from you. Like I feel like you're one of the people who does this really well. Like when several years ago, I- if I had a problem with something, I would come in with like 10 steps down, like a 10-step plan for like, okay, here's how I would like to address this, or just like a really aggressive way of like fixing something. And I feel like in hanging out with you and like learning how to communicate about some of these things, sometimes it's as simple as being like, I'm not comfortable with this direction. And that's all you need to say. And that like it's like that's the first step. Or whether maybe it's saying like no to something. It, it's been surprising to me how like just like a simple, non-reactive, like, no, I don't I don't want to go that route is just like less emotion the better. Like it people act differently and respond differently. And it's almost like I think of it as like it's a form of honesty. It's like if I'm holding back my
Mm,
discomfort, then I'm
mm.
kind of lying to you. If and it may be the case that like I'm
Oh,
just not that good at communicating about certain things, which is true. There's certain things that are harder to communicate about. It doesn't make it honest though.
that really struck. It's like, I'm not communicating my discomfort. Then in a way, I'm lying to you. And this is the crux of the tangle of being a people pleaser, which almost all of us are in some way, is that when you
Hmm.
ignore your own discomfort and do something for someone else, you are creating dishonest relationship.
Hmm.
That's a relationship setting that nobody's nervous system can relax into. So like in your attempt
Yeah.
to be accommodating, you're not actually ever people pleasing from love. People pleasing is a symptom of fear.
Yeah.
And you're actually doing enormous disservice to the relationship and to
Hmm.
yourself by doing that. And it's so crazy how ingrained that is in all of us, of like, that is the best thing to do, is just ignore your own needs and try to figure out what someone else wants. But it's actually relationally one of the worst things you can do.
Yeah.
And when you were just describing that, like the sensation in your body, like the visual in your body, I always know when I do this, I'm talking about congruence, is that just instead of like that 10-step plan, which is like, okay, there's like some chaos in the matrix here with this coming in with this like 10-step resolution, but just the like simple congruence of being like, this is starting to feel like a no inside, and just naming it is exactly what I was saying about being in alignment with yourself and speaking up for yourself. Is
Mm.
like, oh, then as the person who's receiving that or witnessing that, I know I'm actually interacting with a nervous system that's regulated and has taken care of itself, and that's so much safer for me.
Right. It's reassuring.
It actually opens engagement rather than causing me like, if you're in contraction, then I'm going into contraction, and then that's when you have to take that moment, like, I'm not having a tennis match, we need to restart this.
Yeah.
I even had like a proposal, or what story was gonna, anyways, a similar thing of like prioritizing what my body is saying when it's saying no, or like what it's saying yes to, and speaking to
Hmm.
that has been given me so much relational power. It's crazy. And that's staying in desire. I can't emphasize that enough. It's like, hey, this isn't working for me, so if this thing's not available, then um I'm gonna do this instead, because that's more of a yes for me. Or
Hmm.
like, I'd love to hang out with you, but like this component is not going to be like online for me. And that's not saying that they did anything wrong. It's just not the recipe that I need.
Hmm. Yeah. It's amazing how much I find. I went on a date last night, and I
I knew
find.
you did when you were like, I'm not available this evening. And I was like, interesting. Why didn't you tell me why? I knew it was a date.
Interesting. And I find it so fascinating to like watch the stories that come up of like, because there's like I feel like inevitably maybe it dissolves at one point, but like as like throughout the date, throughout the like thinking about being on a date, um my mind has like there's two tracks. There's like what do I really want? Like what are the signals I'm getting? Like what do I want to do with this person on the date? Like, we kind of left it open, so there was, it wasn't decided that we would like be at a show or the jazz fest was on, so we were like walking around just kind of like seeing what was good. And there's a track in my mind that's like, what do I want? And then there's a track in my mind that's like clearly committed to making sure that like whatever is good for her, like she gets, and that I don't make her uncomfortable, and that I predict things that she wants before, like just like basically people pleasing, like a people pleasing track, which is out of step with what I want a lot of the time, not all the time, but some of the time. And it was interesting, like as we were deciding where to go, part of my mind was like, I just want to get somewhere, but it took some time to make the like to land at like where we're gonna go. And I think there's something about like I'm losing my train of thought a little bit here. We were on communicating boundaries. Okay, there we are. So there was a few different places that we could have gone, um, that we didn't go to,
Okay.
um, and in both cases there was like people inside that she knew, and it was like not insignificant relationships, but also like we were on a date. But it took a while for me to realize, like, and like she got uncomfortable at first, was like, oh, this is what that is. There's a group of people in there who, you know, like she's really connected to. And if I had been like um frustrated with like the fact that we hadn't landed somewhere yet, it's like after I heard like talk through why that was a space that was somewhat like, it wasn't even that it would be uncomfortable, it's just that it would interrupt like the container we had kind of made for our date, because there would be lots of other people she knew in these places. It took a while for that to like become clear to me that like that was why we couldn't go into that event or that event. But then
Okay.
after it was explained, I was like, oh right. But like I think having the space for like that kind of like discomfort to tolerate someone else's discomfort, to not be triggered by like, I used to get so triggered by women that couldn't make up their minds. It was just like, come on, like let's do something already. And it was interesting watching it last night because it was like it felt very similar. And I was like, this the role I can play in this part of the conversation is to not be triggered and just be like stability. And we eventually ended up somewhere that did work after a long walk.
Slightly longer than you would have liked it to have been.
I could have walked all night. It was fine. I was there for the
Okay.
company. Yeah.
Okay. That's interesting. I would love to talk about, you're saying like, oh, it's frustrating when women can't make up their minds. And I've been thinking about,
To be fair, I don't think that like I have much more patience now, but that's like a younger version of me would have been very frustrated. Now I think
right.
I grasp it as like that. Well, we can get into that, but
Okay, give me your take on, so you said two things, like past you frustrated with women who couldn't make up their minds, and also looking, um noticing yourself in a bit of people pleasing of like, what does she want, where does she want to go, gotta make sure she's
Mhm.
happy or whatever. And so how does that relate to actually having a really healthy masculine container that's creating structure for the feminine to express
Uh-huh.
her desire and her experience, while the masculine is still not collapsing boundaries or tipping into people pleasing? Like, where's that nuance for you?
I think it's like the way I see it is that like I'll contrast like the way I used to think about things versus now, um, which we can call either a collapsed or undeveloped masculine, like the before. Um, and I think, you know, like as a like mid 20s, late 20s guy, I would be dating women and eventually dating someone I would marry that um I would just yeah, I guess I would get frustrated with the amount of time like I would come with an idea and I think my ideas often would be like put through what it felt like a bit of a ringer. um which I interpreted it as like criticism, um or if maybe a better example is like a partner would come to me with like a problem and then I'd be like, oh, the solution to that problem is simple, you got to do this. um Often it would be like a workplace problem, like my boss said this and I need to do this and I don't like this. And I think just through time I've realized that like none of my fixes ever were like whatever I was suggesting. Well, you know, you try scripting, what if you said something like this to them? We could try role playing. That
Were
kind
they
of work.
asking for solutions though?
Mm, right,
The
exactly.
feminine
So I
just
think
wants to be heard.
exactly. And but I think the being heard, I think younger Mark didn't recognize that like that's the beginning of a process. And what you're actually doing is creating a space, a container where effectively, like what it often feels like from the male perspective, like younger collapsed male perspective is like she was talking about this and then she was talking about this and then she talked about this person from her child. Like it's like all these different like, and I think that's what needs to happen. And frankly, it's what I do when I'm like journaling and trying to process for myself. And it's like it feels like they're all over the place.
And
But
the
by
masculine
holding
who
that,
needs to solve is like, how do I, why are you bringing
yeah,
all these pieces in? How am I supposed to tie all this together and fix this for you?
or like actually gets in and tries to like connect the dots and like, this is your problem. But what actually seems to work is like being a good listener, reflecting back, and like showing them that like, yeah, no matter what you bring in, it's like, I'm not going to try and make sense of it, but I'm not going to be
Right.
like, why would you say that? It's like, clearly that's
Yeah.
because you're too sensitive. Like that shouldn't have upset you that way. It's like, no, actually, it's not my job to
Oof.
say
Oof.
whether something should or shouldn't feel a certain way. But if I can make a space where it's like, oh, they said that to you, how did that feel? And then they can keep like,
You sound
there's
hurt.
eventually
Yeah.
they get somewhere, and like this is when you know you're done if you're the guy. It's like there's no more fresh cheers coming, and then it's like, thank you for listening. Like I feel so much better,
Can I
and
have a
it's not.
hug?
Yeah. It's like it feels resolved, and you don't have to do hardly anything but like bite your tongue, and like touch is helpful.
Mm. This is the communication that I like would try to give every partner in my 20s was like, what I'm looking for from you is so much less than what you think it is. You
Right.
are overwhelmed by what you think I'm asking of you.
Uh-huh.
And then you're becoming resentful and defensive because it's hitting on your nerve of failure, which is innate in every masculine energy. And I'm not even asking that of you, but you're so vortexed around not failing that you can't actually hear how simple the thing is that I want.
Yeah.
And now I just know what I want and I like ooze the desire and arousal of being in that because I keep myself in it all the time. And then I just look for what matches it
Mm,
instead of trying to like rearrange someone's puzzle pieces, you know?
yeah. That's wise.
But I love that, like in terms of when I'm like dropped into my feminine, totally like soft and open, I don't want to make a single fucking decision. Like, but I love me a good proposal. Like if someone's like, let's make
Mhm.
reservations at 7 at this place. I'm like, done. Amazing. Or like, it's the same with listening empathically, right? Like instead of being like, how do you feel? It's like, are you feeling hurt? Like come in with something, right? Show engagement. So then
Oh,
when
okay.
someone's like, it's the same idea. It's like what I crave is not like, where do you want to eat tonight? It's like, well, why don't we go for Italian at 7? And then I can be like, why don't we go for Japanese at 7? And you're like, okay, done. Right.
Uh-huh.
But I
Yeah.
don't want to have to come up with that. The feminine loves to tweak, not
Right. Well, it's like the difference
initiate and
between
create.
right. It's almost like the difference between like, do you have to write an essay from scratch, or has somebody written like the first draft for you, and then you can go in and be like, oh, now that I see what this is, it's so much easier to decide.
And coming in with that draft is what feels like the container that's holding you. It's like, I'm going to
Mm,
create this structure and we can pivot within it, but I'm going to show up with it and not expect it of you to create.
right.
I heard this like expression the other day that was like, well, I actually kind of came up with it in my processing this stuff with my AI, where it's like some of the least arousing phrases to the feminine.
Oh no. All right, we're gonna clip this.
Let me know when you're free. What do you want to do? um, what are the other ones? Oh, just tell me where. No.
Tell me how I can help.
Yeah, tell me how I can. Tell me what I can do. No. You get the gist. The
Yeah.
ambiguity.
Yeah.
So I had someone
So
was like,
differential.
this person was like trying to ask me out, and every like week he'd be like, um, yeah. So instead of being like, even the difference between like, tell me what your available days are, as opposed to like, just let me know when you're free.
Hmm.
And it's like it actually is shunting the structure and connection labor to me to be
Yeah.
like, well, okay, now I'm orchestrating this thing, as opposed to someone coming in and be like, are you free Wednesday? Yes. Okay. So you get a yes, no. Great. Yes. All right. How about Wednesday afternoon picnic, then walk at this park? It's like oh, you're just making it so easy for me to say yes, yes, yes. And
Right.
then I get to also be filtering by like, what is it that you're offering? What is it that you're bringing to the table? Like, how well are you going to show up and hold me? Versus someone was like, let me know when you're free. And then I'm like, I don't engage with that anymore. But if I were to and be like, I'm free Wednesday, if they were like, okay, cool. What do you want to do? Want to hang out?
Oh my god.
No.
Yeah, I'm in this similar spot where it's like I think at this I've only probably gotten there a while ago, but the like there are 3 unanswered texts in my phone right now from people who like it's like, "Hey, you wanna hang out? Hey, Mark, how are you?" And like I know the ultimate objective because these people all know me and like they know that I don't really text a whole lot. Like so I voice note for conversation sometimes, but in terms of texts, like most people I know that if like we're texting and we're not like regularly, I guess like the exception, I feel like we have a different relationship texting because like we have
I was going to
projects
say,
together.
we text a lot.
Yeah, and we have projects and like like there's enough different lines and we're in communication enough that I feel like our texts are more resilient than text with my connections that I might see a couple times a month kind of thing.
Okay.
Um, but they all know that like I'm not gonna, or they should know, I'm not gonna do a big "How are you?" response in a text, and it's like what like to me when you were describing that situation with like guy asking you on a date, like it almost what it sounded like was like, "Hey, I think you're beautiful and amazing. Would you please arrange for us to spend some time together?"
It's extractive, is what it
Yeah.
feels like. I'm attracted to you, and that should be enough for you to do the labor for us to connect.
Mhm.
And I got a beautiful insight because I did not respond to that because I recognized what that pattern was. And even this person asked me like earlier in the week, they were like, could you send me like a few more photos of you? And I was like, actually, no, because I have no idea what you're bringing to the table. And now you're asking me for more energy and more availability when you've actually brought
Mhm.
nothing so far. So I
Yeah.
was like, no, I'm not going to send you more photos. And then eventually, it didn't criticize. I was just like, hey, the way that I like to be met and the way that I like to move in relationship doesn't really seem to be available here. So I'm going to close this loop at this
Right.
point. And because I'd been on 3 other dates with other people in the time that this person was trying to ask me out, but they were so passive and so backseat about it that it never happened.
Mhm.
Um, and then I received the defensiveness and explanation cloaked in kindness. And I was like, oh, I know that move now. That you know how I feel a little bit sick inside when I read that, even though it seems all like really nice language. Oh, like I thought I was being so empathic and understanding to your like variable schedule as a mother and blah blah blah. And I was like, oh cool, you're centering your heroism instead of being curious about what I actually needed.
Mhm.
I was like, great, you just super clarified for me that this is 100% no, actually.
Yeah.
And it was like, it just felt so good to be like, my body's not interested in that anymore. And
Mhm.
me 4 years ago would have tried to codependently soothe their discomfort with my response so that
Of course, yeah.
I could continue to get that attention. But now I recognize that that caliber of attention is not of the quality that I require.
Yeah. And it's such a difference too, like because I was dating somebody earlier this year that was the dynamic. It's like, "Hey, miss you, haven't seen you in a while." It's like, "Great, now you've guilted me." Or like the only way that works is if like I miss you too, and I'm like, "Oh yeah, we should get together." But if I don't have that feeling, then it's gonna feel like a guilt trip of like, "Oh, was I like, should we? Was it? Did we didn't agree? Like, it's like that's a very different thing than like, hey, I'm gonna do this later this week. Um, it's been a while since we've been in touch. Like, do you want to come with me and we can catch up? Like, totally different like
Yeah.
vibe.
The I miss you is a bid for attention without entering the actual vulnerability of meeting connection. It's
Yeah.
like I think of it like a seesaw of like I miss you is lifting up your end so that all the labor is sliding back to the other person because if you responded with I miss you too, then it would just slide back to the center and nothing would happen.
Mm-hmm.
Right.
Yeah.
And whoever is making the desire, like, and that person was not expressing desire,
Mm-hmm.
they were just letting you
Longing.
into a
Yeah.
longing. And they're not even saying, I'm longing to see you. Let's do something about it. And like, I
Mm-hmm.
miss you. So whoever
One thing I really love is I miss us. I miss
ugh.
us. You don't like that?
Sometimes I just want to yell, do something about it.
Okay, maybe I wouldn't necessarily say it in the same context, but I guess what I'm trying to express is that, like, if I'm missing you, then there's like a grasping for Casey, but like what I'm probably actually longing for and desiring is like our dialogue, or like what we can create together that I can't create with anybody else, and what I can experience with you that I can't experience with anybody else,
Yeah,
like the
like our
uniqueness of our
field.
relationship. Yeah, our field. It's like that's the thing, but it's still a
There,
different, and like maybe miss is not the right word, but it's like that's the thing I want to get back to. It's like if you're attached to the person, you're going to be dissatisfied because there's nothing to, like, what you experience when you're in a loving relationship with somebody is the field.
99% of the time when someone says, I miss you, they're saying, I miss how you make me feel.
Hmm.
You know, it can be, if you're not super careful, that kind of communication can feel very extractive, which you felt when you received it. You felt guilt because it's an
Yeah.
extractive energy. And so I just want to swing back to the like, let me know when you're free, or like, love to hang out sometime. You know, those expressions are like nice. And I think it's important to recognize when you're saying them. If you're saying them as an act of like love, or like reminding that person that you care about connection with them, then there's maybe a even more honest way to say that.
How would you
And
say it?
when, how would I say it?
Mm-hmm. More honestly.
Um, maybe like, well, I think more honestly would acknowledge that, which which was leading to the next part of my point, is that when that is expressed, if anything is going to be done about it, somebody has to make it actionable.
Mm-hmm.
And whoever is leading the action is then is occupying the masculine pole. And so I find in
Right.
my relationships, predominantly most of my community-based relationships, most of the time, I am occupying that masculine role. I am initiating, I am making decisions, I am leading, I'm hosting. Um, and when somebody else does that, it feels really, really good. Like the let's hang out sometime. It's like, great. That's not going to happen unless somebody does something about it. So I
Right.
even had a girlfriend who was like, I can't wait to have you over for dinner, like so many times, to the point where I actually found out that they were hanging out with like tons of other people, and I named it, and I was like, you said you wanted to have me over for dinner, but actually you're just hanging out with all these other people. So do you actually want to have me over for dinner, or are you waiting for me to initiate you having me over for dinner? And she was like, oh my God, I'm so sorry. Are
Mm-hmm.
you free Thursday at 7? I'd love to have you over for dinner. I was like, thank you. I'd love to
Nice.
come over Thursday at 7, you know? And what is that?
I wonder. I feel like I've been on the other side of this at times, and
Yeah, let's hear it.
I think I'm thinking of specifically a specific example of someone I worked with and admired who occupied a lot of alpha in just in general in her life, like similar to you. And I was working on a project one time, and we were interviewing people of a certain that represented a certain kind of person in Nova Scotia, like a certain that did a certain kind of work, like community building work. And it had come to mind that, oh, maybe we should invite, let's call her Jane, Jane to work on the or to be interviewed for the project. And I was like, nah. Like my own insecurities came up that I was like, I don't want her to say no. Or like I don't want to push, because I've done a lot of like, hey, come to this thing, or hey, can you participate in this event? And not able to offer people compensation necessarily. And when I felt pushy in the past, that's felt like bad to like try and like to say no after some persistence on my end. So then I sort of like went the other way and like pushed a little less hard. And then I ran into this person a few months after like the result, like the project was published, where you could see who else was interviewed. And first thing she said when I ran into her was, it would have been nice to get an invitation. Like similar to how, like, I see you're hanging out with friends. Like I thought we were going to hang out. And then in that moment, I was like, oh, fuck. Like my own insecurities have gotten in the way of me including the people that need to be included, or that like
My fear of
staying
receiving a
in the
no.
relationship. My fear of receiving a no, and just like, even just like I just like, it became so obvious that I'd categorized things in my head poorly in terms of this invitation. And then I have this sense of like, oh, that person's such a good musician, they're beyond me, approach them. So maybe I'll and it's been clicking recently that like that could be like what you're saying, like perceived as a form of rejection by the person who they may have the exact same view of me. It's like a connection that probably wants to happen that isn't happening because I've got this complex. It is complex, but there's an imposter syndrome kind of voice inside that's like, oh no, I couldn't possibly play with so and so, or I couldn't possibly ask her out on a date, when in reality that may be like,
that may be wanted.
Happen is like somebody considers themselves out of crushing happening, but they never realize it. How sad is that?
How sad is that missed opportunity?
Yeah. And like, but in everything, like in jobs and friendships and workplaces.
I think it's like that reflects on like the importance of knowing what it is you want, and like maybe even feeling worthy of the things that you want, because the asking is risk. Like the reaching across the field to initiate creates risk. It's vulnerable. You could be rejected. But risk and vulnerability create intimacy, and intimacy creates relationship. So it's worth it.
I feel like it mirrors what you were.
You're really freezing, Mark.
Before, like, okay, I see that. Am I back?
No.
Did I come back?
It's been happening for a couple of minutes. Like
video or audio?
Video. Both. Just a video.
Okay. Yeah, you're freezing a bit too. But the audio is clear. Do you mind if we just proceed with audio? I feel like we're nearing the close.
Okay. Yeah. It seems to be better at this moment anyways.
Okay. What I was going to say was, I think it almost ties back to like what we're saying is that like there's that risk in like initiating, or that risk in like pursuing that which you want. And there's like we were talking about earlier, like the risk in not sharing your honest feelings, like in holding back the part of you that's uncomfortable. It's like they're almost like the same. Like if you're in a relationship and you're afraid to be honest about what is making you uncomfortable, then that's one form of like disintegrity. But if you're not pursuing a relationship that you want, or moving towards what you want because of that fear of the risk, then that's also another form of being out of integrity.
Yeah. Being out of congruence and not showing up the way that you really want to.
Yeah.
Ooh. Yeah. And what is the remedy? I think the only remedy to being more and more willing to take that risk is knowing that you can hold the part of you that's afraid of getting rejected.
Mm-hmm.
Because when you think about the difference between someone who's confident and somebody who's not confident, the difference is not in how skilled they are or how well they could do the job. The difference is in how okay they are with not doing it well.
Totally. Yeah. Like I think salespeople, when you say that, it's like salespeople aren't necessarily better at persuading people. They're just better at collecting no's until they get to a yes.
Yeah, yeah. The fear of receiving no can be so paralyzing, and it is actually one of the most powerful avenues for developing confidence and resilience is like going for the no's.
Yeah.
And that's why like I'm always encouraging, I love receiving proposals. I love receiving someone showing up with their idea and their concept and their desire. It's vulnerable. And I love that. Like I love the intimacy in that vulnerability. And I'm always gonna hold it carefully. And there may be parts of it that it doesn't work for me, but I'm just gonna like celebratorily pivot those parts. And
Hmm.
that quality of relating in being able to show up, saying what you actually want, and being able to receive the feedback if it doesn't land 100% is so regulating for everyone's
Mm.
nervous system in the container.
Yeah. Oh my gosh. I've just like, I know we're probably moving towards a close soon. Um, but I've just like adopted this in the approach I'm taking to the musical project I'm working on, and just like
The
really
Mockingbird Project?
Project Mockingbird. I think I've reversed the name since
I
I
think it
shared it
was
with you.
Project Mockingbird. I think you no,
Oh,
you
was it?
did say that,
Okay.
I think. Yeah.
I've written down both, so I can't remember what I shared with you, but one
Okay.
of those. But yeah, it's Project Mockingbird now. It may end up just being Mockingbird by the time I'm done with it, or by the time I launch. But I'm just sitting down and like realizing that like there's all these decisions that will inevitably have to be made. So I'm making as many of them as I'm ready to make now, so that when I go to invite people in, it's like, here's what I'm building. This is the role that I think you would be a great fit for. Or whether it's like approaching people or like inviting people, like posting their roles and saying, here's what I'm making, feels so much clearer than like, to me, where I was a year ago was like, I just want people to play music with. I want to lead people in music. It's like, that was a good enough start, but it wasn't clear enough for people to be able to
And
sign
nobody
on unless
coming,
they just
yeah,
wanted to be around me, which some people probably would have
do.
said yes to, but I wouldn't have been able to give them the experience or lead them. I wouldn't have known where I was leading them if it was just like, come
That's
up,
right.
hang out with me and we'll play music. It's like, now it's super clear and probably not perfect, but like I've established like the container, which we can clarify and evolve along the way as
Yeah.
people do or do not resonate. And the other difference too is I've noticed that like my shift has been, well, this is what I'm doing. I had this idea like, you've got people you like when you're starting a project, and it's like, oh, I hope so and so comes, or I hope so and so likes what I do. It's like that voice is still in here, but like I've structured it in a way now that like if I want to approach them, I can be like, I don't know if this is actually appealing to you, but this is what I'm making. I think you would be a good fit, but this is the role. It's like that's not
Yeah.
negotiable. And
Woo! That's
or if I
hot.
right?
I'm not pandering this to you. I know what it is, and do you fit it?
Yeah. Yeah. And it's just like it's felt such a relief to my nervous system, because it's like I have this like, my ultimate fear is like an entirely open list, like public project that anybody can participate in and there's no boundaries. And I'm just like realize that like I'm not actually going to create that project. I'm going to create a project that satisfies the things I'm trying to make more of in the world and draw into my life and share like the offering I ultimately want to be able to make. And that's just, it's just so reassuring to like you were saying, like when I made that self-talk statement in that moment of like
This is like
crisis,
becoming universal.
this is
Ah!
coherence and aligned. Yeah. It's like when you make that statement, it's like, oh, that's what I just go back to that. Like that was my principle, or that was my boundary. And now it's just as simple as like, I think of that, like the Shackleton quote, like the Antarctic explorer or the Arctic
Ernest
explorer.
Shackleton? Yeah.
Yeah, where he was like, men needed long voyage, possibility of safe return unlikely, and he got a full crew. Right? It's like that. I don't know who this invitation is open to. Maybe some people I know, maybe some people I don't, but this is going to be the invitation. And
Oh, I'm
if you're in, you're
yeah.
in.
This is what you're being invited into. You self-select.
Exactly. Yeah.
And it's like that,
Self-select.
man, I'm landing in it with dating and I realize the gripping of like, I want this person to be this thing is creates so much pain for everybody. I
Mhm.
want this person to play this role in my project. It's like that's not the right role for them, you know?
Yeah.
And what if we stuck to the things that we just know that we want in our heart and let people decide whether they are or aren't that?
Yeah. See who comes along.
It's so liberating.
Mm.
It's yeah, it feels like a certain quality of exhaustion just kind of lifts off and also maybe gets filled with a certain quality of trust.
Hmm. I think it's a huge trust building thing.
That felt like a good ending.
Yeah. Yeah. All right. Let's end it there. On your line, not mine. That's when the
No
music
more.
kicks in. 11:11. We have to end now.
What's the cut?
All right. Ah, I keep spilling shit on my
Ah!
the sock mop it up.
Sock
My goodness.
mop.
All right. There's a mess here, but that's okay.